Today's presenter is Samantha Falcone. I pronounced that last name right,
Yes,
Samantha, right?
correct. Yep,
Okay.
that's right.
Um, Samantha is kind of on the upper end of 1 Million Cups presenters in that she's been in business for a little over 5 years. Samantha she worked for another architectural firm and decided to go out on her own. And the good news is for her, and I'm sure she'll touch on this during her presentation, is that she's growing and actually looking for people. So you may have an opportunity to refer some people that have like-minded individuals to work with Samantha. So I'll let you go, Samantha. It's all you.
Thanks, Dave. Thank you very much for having me today. I really appreciate the opportunity. So again, my name is Samantha Falcone. I'm a registered architect here in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, and I own SCF Architecture. So I started the firm it's actually about 6 years ago, and so we've been doing very well. And when I started the firm, it was just kind of there was a good reason for it, but I'll kind of get into the story as things go along. So again, I live in Center Valley and my office is in Emmaus, and I am a serial volunteer and then get involved in my community in a million different ways. I serve as the chair of the Upper Saucon Township Planning Commission. I've been volunteers on my kids' schools and done a lot of charitable work throughout my career. And I found that that's a great way to network as a business owner, just the people you connect with every day in your everyday life. You'd be amazed at where connections come from. So again, I'm very happy to be here. I'm a Parkland grad. I kind of started my architectural journey in high school where I thought I was going to be an artist. So let me go down to the next slide here. So this gentleman here standing on this structure here is my great-great-grandfather, grandfather Cornacchia, who came to the United States and was involved in construction and built churches for a living. My grandfather was a stone carver. His sculptures are all over the buildings of New York City and on the Brooklyn Bridge. And, so I come from kind of a creative background, family sort of situation that has kind of always been involved in the construction industry. My uncle was trained as an architect but never got his license and worked as a facilities manager in New York City. And then there's my parents. My mom is a microbiology and anatomy professor. My dad's a pharmacist. And then there's me. But both my parents were very creative, 60s, 70s, hippies kind of people. My dad was a musician and a photographer. My mom was kind of the Martha Stewart of my entire life, making everything picture perfect in so many different ways. And I worked very hard in high school and thought I wanted to be an artist. And then in my senior year of high school, I found this career called architecture that mixes a little bit of everything from science and art and history and math and science, like all the things that I really enjoyed doing in school. And this has been the perfect career choice for me. So I worked really hard in high school, got decent grades, and ended up at Carnegie Mellon University, which I was very blessed to be there. It was the perfect location for me to kind of get this jump start on my career, and found that architecture is really something I'm passionate about, and was the perfect career choice. I got involved in the American Institute of Architecture students while I was there. I was the chapter president, and then went on to be one of the national directors and traveled the country learning about other architecture schools and the profession and connecting with architects all over the place, just learning more and more about what this job was that I was getting myself into. So I started working at small firms right after my freshman year of high school. I was paid $7.50 an hour in my first summer internship, and the state paid half my salary through a FIA grant. So the first boss I had was paying me $3.50 an hour to do architectural drafting and pretty much anything that the office needed. And I was in heaven. I was super excited to have that job, and it kind of got me started, and worked every summer since. After I graduated, I came back to Allentown for a year and worked for the firm that supported me through the years. And then I decided I really needed to kind of branch out, and ended up going back to Pittsburgh for a year. As soon as I decided to go back to Pittsburgh, my at the time boyfriend proposed to me, and so we were engaged. And I thought I was going to live in Pittsburgh for the rest of my life. He was trying to get a job out there, didn't quite go the way he had hoped, and I ended up back here in the Lehigh Valley. I worked for a firm in Perkiomenville for 18 years, and we designed churches, much like the building you see in the slide here. So I did church projects all over Pennsylvania. We did a project in California. I worked with Catholic churches of every different denomination, including a Buddhist temple in Telford, Pennsylvania, which you wouldn't expect to be the perfect place for a Buddhist temple, but we made it fit, and it was a fun, exciting opportunity. And I learned how to do architecture on a budget. As you know, churches usually have a shoestring budget about this big, but a program about this big. So I really learned how to kind of create beautiful things on a budget. So 18 years go by. Towards the end of the time after the recession in 2008, the firm started struggling in terms of having projects come in. The church work kind of dried up, and there were some just really poor business decisions made. So I kind of made the decision that, all right, should I pour my heart into this firm and keep this going, or should I start my own thing? With the American Institute of Architecture students experience I had, it gave me leadership training, and I kind of always had this little dream in the back of my head to start my own firm at some point in time. And in 2015, it was the right time for me to try to do that. So I did. So here I go, leaving my job with not one project ready for me to go at the time. I'm like, well, where am I going to find any work? So I ended up reaching out to contacts at engineering firms, construction companies. I had worked with other architecture firms to see if I could provide a service to any of them in some way and be useful to them. Sometimes architecture firms don't want to hire full-time people all the time, not knowing how the workload's going to go. So I ended up providing some services like writing specifications and drafting for other firms. And eventually bigger firms were sending me their tiny little projects that were too small for them to do. So all these tiny projects ended up kind of creating my workload. Within a year, I'd hired my first part-time employee that turned into a full-time employee less than 3 months after I hired her. I ended up hiring an admin assistant, and she helps me with bookkeeping. I had hired my parents at first, but I had to fire them because they didn't do a very good job. And my dad still gives me a hard time about that. But I do have a full-time admin now, and we're up to 6 people. Once we were 4 people around my dining room table, it was time to find an office. So we've now moved into a real live office, and we're really enjoying that space. But all the while, as an entrepreneur, I really struggled with my self-confidence, and like, here I am, I have 20 years of experience, and what am I doing? I'm designing little projects here and there. We ended up doing about 5 garages during the first year or so that we were in business. I'm like, here I am, 20 years experience, and I'm designing garages. What the heck? What am I doing? I'm watching my friends soar in their firms all over the country, doing giant projects all over the world. And here I am designing garages in the Lehigh Valley. What's the problem? And I realized soon after that, after some soul searching, I realized, not everyone's roadmap looks the same. There's not one roadmap to success. Everybody's journey is a little bit different. And so I kind of decided that, all right, this is okay. Maybe I found my niche doing these small garages and all these little projects. So let me just kind of show you the example of one of the garages we do. They're not just garages. So this is one of them. This is a pool house that we designed for a house in Macungie that opens up to the backyard. The garage doors face the backyard instead of the driveway. And they can open the space up and use it like pretty much 12 months out of the year. There's heaters inside. There's a bathroom with a urinal. The husband really had this idea of having a urinal in this kind of outbuilding for himself. He loved it. So it ended up being a really great thing. So just designing a garage is more than just that. So we found that doing these small projects really was our niche. And our motto has kind of been, nothing's too small to be well designed. So everything from a garage to a front porch addition to a commercial building or a tenant fit out for a client, we do a little bit of everything. Then my husband's aunt and uncle called me and said, hey, we're ready to build our retirement home. So this is their retirement home. They had owned a piece of property up in the Poconos for years, and my husband and I had gone up every year for Labor Day from the time we were dating. And they had this, we call it a Pocono special, the T111 cabin that barely is holding itself up, and they're ready to tear it down and build something new. So they designed, we worked together to design this cabin for them in the Poconos that ended up being a really great, fun project, and ended up being my first from the ground up construction project of a house. I built commercial buildings before, but this was a new thing, doing a house, and it's a completely different animal. But they love it. They have a first floor master suite as they age, so they don't have to climb up and down the stairs all day long. It really was a fun project for them and a great opportunity for me, which kind of gave me something to put in my portfolio that I could show, hey, here's something that we can do for you. Then Univest called me. So when I worked for the previous firm I worked for, I had helped, we had done some commercial work as well as the church projects we had worked on. And Univest was one of our clients, and we helped them design this prototype for their branches. They had kind of been your grandfather's bank that was really set in the 50s, wood paneling everywhere, all these things that really were kind of out of style. And they wanted to bring themselves into the 21st century. So we designed this prototype for them for their new branches. So the first one got built in Newtown, Pennsylvania, and then we've been building them kind of all over the place. We've been renovating their existing branches. So after about a year that I was in business, they came and called me and said, "Hey, where did you go?" They wondered why I'd left, and they really liked working with me and wanted to hire me to do some more of their work, and which was great. So we've done about 15 projects for them. They helped keep me busy through the pandemic. They've been an excellent client of ours, and we've had such a fun time trying to fit this prototype into many different spaces. We've done everything from an ATM, moving just an ATM from one part of the building to another and designing how it fit into the exterior of the structure, to new branches like this, to doing fit outs in existing spaces like at Broad in Maine and Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. So it's been a really fun, challenging project, and we love doing these retail fun spaces with pops of color and creating these kind of custom millwork details. So that's kind of what we do from a commercial aspect. But we also work with residential clients. So basically, our kind of two parts of our job and what we do is we do small commercial and residential work. And our residential clients tend to be those empty nesters whose house has gotten beat up by their kids for the last 20 years, and they're ready to kind of renovate and create their new sanctuary spaces for themselves. So this is a master bathroom that was part of a whole master suite that we did for a couple in the Macungie area. And this is a lovely bathroom space that they wanted to feel like a Colorado ski lodge. And I think we did a pretty good job with that. But I'll have you know, in Pennsylvania, you don't need an architect to do residential work. So that was a shock to, like, it was a shock to me as I was going to architecture school and finding out that Pennsylvania didn't have that requirement. But, you know, like, since you don't need an architect, you could go to a contractor, they could do this work for you just as well as I could. But let me kind of show you what kind of happens. So this is a front porch. I'm sure all of you recognize this as a front porch. They're both getting the job done. They're shedding roof off of the front porch. They're keeping a person dry or a package dry that comes from Amazon. There's a front stoop. There's a couple columns holding it up structurally. It's getting the job done. The rain comes off the roof. It's held up. It's safe. It's got just enough room for someone to stand on that front porch. So this client came to us and said, "Hey, we need a new front porch because it's raining in my foyer." So for 20 years, rainwater has been running down the face of this brick, sitting on top of this wood ledge above the door and leaking into the house and rotting out the wood all around this door frame. So they wanted a nicer front entrance so that when people come, they're not getting wet standing on their front stoop. They had a couple weird situations around the door and the landscaping. So we took a look at what we can do, and this is what we designed. So this is a front porch. It solves the problem. It gets the rain off the door, but it does it in a much more elegant way. So we looked at things like, all right, well, how are we going to deal with the rainwater? So what we did is we took the gutter and wrapped it around the front and tied it into this gutter up along the garage. It takes the rainwater all the way across the house and dumps it in the yard so that there's not an ice puddle right on the patio, right where people are coming into the house. We designed a patio that kind of connects the driveway to the front pathway to get them to the front door. We filled in, there was a weird little, like a little space between the patio and the garage that was kind of not quite big enough for a plant. And so we filled that in and made sure that this nice paper patio filled in the whole space. It gave the homeowner places to put their plants and a brand new front door. They painted their shutters, redid the roof, and did a whole bunch of things just to make the house look a little bit nicer. But it all blends in. It's proportional. We designed all this trim work and things like that. The columns are much more elegant. And obviously, this is a more expensive porch than the first porch that you saw. But this is your home. This is your entrance. This is the way you greet your guests when they come to your home. And your home is your biggest investment for the most part that you probably will make in your lifetime. So when you're doing a project like this, you can get a front porch like we're in the first couple of pictures very easily. And it depends on your budget. But this is kind of a much nicer way to have people enter your home. It raises the value of your home. It raises your curb appeal. And it's a much more beautiful way to solve the problem of, hey, I need a new roof. We also do commercial projects, as I mentioned. This project was interesting in that the owners wanted to put a ceiling at 8 foot across this whole cubicle farm. And they had this building that was built in the 60s. It was kind of like a concrete bunker, very brutalist kind of building. And they had all these what are called clerestory windows up high. I'm like, oh my gosh, why not open up the ceiling and make sure that everybody has access to sunlight and daylight and has a view to the outside? So we designed the space for Univest, and thankfully they listened to me. Sometimes it's a battle sometimes when it comes to budget and changing things, but they agreed with me. They redid the windows, and it became a much more workable environment, sustainable environment for their employees to work in. Oops, sorry. These are some other clients that we have. So these are the animals that have been helped by the ARC Wildlife Rehabilitation Center in Chalfont, Pennsylvania. They help serve over 4,000 to 5,000 animals every single year. Animals that have been hit by cars, or you know, abandoned mothers where deer have gotten hit by cars and the baby deer is found and has nowhere to go. They've helped families of baby squirrels and skunks and all kinds of creatures. And this one in the middle had gotten hit by a car, and they helped rehab him back to health by helping him walk around on a PVC little stretcher thing that he could paddle around the floor and get stronger. There was a bald eagle that was there during the project that we worked on, and he had gotten poisoned by a lead fishing lure. So there's all kinds of things that they do, but they were working out of this tiny little basically a one-room schoolhouse that they used to serve all of these animals every year. So we helped them design this clinic for the existing buildings back here, and we built this addition onto the space to help them serve more of these animals in a better, more efficient way. They have, you know, now top of the line, you know, medical facilities, a large sink to wash the skunk smell off of the animals when they bring them in, things like that. So we help them kind of design the space custom for what they do. So as you can see, we do a little bit of everything. We also help small business owners. So this was a small business owner that had rented the space and had a shoestring budget, and they didn't even know they needed an architect to get into their space. So as a small business owner, when you are moving from your dining room into a brick and mortar space, you sometimes need a certificate of occupancy for the space you're moving into. And as I say, nothing's too small to be well designed. But this small project is the biggest project that this business owner had ever done. And it was our job to help walk them through the process, make it easier, and help them understand why they had to do it, and help them through the process, not make it more difficult. So we helped them with their shoestring budget. I mean, as you see here, there's no flooring. All we did was take the tile that was in there out and polish the floor down so that it looked beautiful. And it created this kind of industrial vibe within the space. This stuff on the front desk here is actually a piece of paneling turned backwards. She saw it in Lowe's and thought it had a great look, and so she used that. So she really used her smarts and kind of figured out what she did, and we just helped her do it. It worked out really well. So we love working with small business owners, helping them help their dreams come true by making the spaces that they want to be working in look exactly like they had in their mind. And again, we do garages. Now, this is probably the fanciest garage you've ever seen. It's got copper gutters and real stone and cementitious siding and things like that. But again, all these little projects add up, and they create really fun projects to work on for my staff. We really have a good time doing it, and it really is a great base of work that we've found in the Valley. The other thing we do at our office is we encourage our staff to get out and do hands-on projects. So we volunteer almost once a year. The pandemic has kind of thrown us for a loop, but we usually go out and we volunteer for Habitat for Humanity at least once a year, getting out on the construction site, doing demo, helping build framing, do whatever we can to help out. We also help support Habitat for Humanity by sponsoring a She Nailed It nail hammering team. So we're called the Nail Biters, and we won the bronze hammer about 2 years ago, and we're trying to get the gold. So we'll be fundraising for that come this spring. The event for this is May 10th, coming up in the spring outside at the hotel right across the street from the Promenade Shops. I also volunteer my time for this group called the Let's Build Construction Camp for Girls. This is a absolutely free camp for girls ages 14 to 18 that are interested in anything to do with construction, engineering, architecture. And it's a hands-on camp where they learn how to do electrical work, framing, carpentry, flooring, roofing. They get their hands on a little bit of every part of the construction process. They take field trips, they hear from professionals that speak about the different aspects of the career. And it's like I said, it's completely free. It's right here in the Lehigh Valley. And it's usually run in June or July. I can't remember the dates, and I meant to look it up before this meeting. But last summer, because of the pandemic, we actually just did one project where we did a Habitat for Humanity had auctioned off a shed. And so I helped by designing the shed for them with a client that made a donation. We designed the shed for him. And then in 1 week over the summer, me and a bunch of volunteers and 8 girls who were all ages, oh gosh, there was a sophomore and a bunch of seniors. They had been to camp before. They were experienced campers. And they came in and we built the shed in 1 week. Everything from the framing and the siding. And we did this hydraulic door that opened up for them to use the window. It was really a great opportunity for the girls and for us, and it was a really, really fun project. The girls are just amazing. They're going to school for plumbing and construction management, and some are just on the college prep route, but they were all interested in the building industries in some way. So as I said, you know, we do a little bit of everything, but one thing we follow through in almost all our projects is I'm what's called a lead accredited professional. I'm very concerned about the environment and making sure that the buildings that I'm creating are not harming the people that are living in them. So whether or not the client asks for it, we're designing things in as green a way as we possibly can, understanding that everybody's got a budget, everybody's got an idea of what they want. So we're trying to make sure that everything we're doing is making sure that people are not getting harmed by our buildings. So when you're moving into your house, it doesn't smell like paint fumes or carpet adhesives. You know, we're doing a 6-week fit out for a construction or for a commercial client. We don't want the people to move into the space and end up with headaches every day after work. So we're making sure that we're doing things in an environmentally sensitive way. You know, as an architect, you know, people don't always understand what we do. They understand what a contractor does. They understand what construction is or what a structural engineer would do, but people don't always know what the architect does. But it's our job to kind of work with all pieces of the puzzle, all members of the construction team, and make sure that the project gets done successfully, that the details work, that the water stays outside of your home instead of inside of your home. Um, and it's our job to make sure we're following what your budget requirements are, making sure it's safe for you to occupy it and live in it or occupy it as a business. We're really responsible for all of those things and detailing things and making sure we put things into the buildings that make sense. And it takes a lot of time to do those things. And that's the part that we have trouble with sometimes, is the amount of cost to get our services. But again, we're still just a tiny piece of the overall construction project. You're building this garage for $100,000. I would think you'd want to design it to get it done right. If you hire a contractor to do it, they're going to give you that $100,000 price tag, and the design services are wrapped up into that $100,000 piece. But when you see it from an architect, you're getting a chunk for the design fee and then the construction cost alongside of it. And that one design fee seems like an awful lot of money. But remember, you're spending $100,000 on that addition. To invest a few $1,000s in a design process will really be an investment in the success of your project. But it's hard for some people to kind of wrap their head around those numbers. So we've worked over the last 6 years trying to figure out ways to kind of ease that burden on homeowners and make sure they understand what they're paying for and what value they're getting for what we do. But again, that's a constant battle for me. And in this area, you know, the contractor is king. And so sometimes they don't always understand that the designer is sometimes necessary. And contractors sometimes feel that the architect is the necessary evil, which we don't feel that is the case. But we do try to make sure that we're doing the best job we can and being sensitive to the budget and doing all of those things. And it's difficult. And we're growing. So we've been getting calls off the hook since January 1st for new projects. And you know, it's interesting. So we are growing. We have 6 people in the office right now, and I call myself a recovering control freak. So as an entrepreneur, you know, it's your baby. You have this vision. I spent a lot of time crafting what we were doing and what I wanted the firm to be. I wanted to learn from the mistakes that I'd seen being made in other firms in the past. And it's really like, it's like I think Tyrone Russell mentioned it during his Lehigh Valley Faces presentation a few weeks ago. You know, it's the baby. You know, you want to make sure that the baby gets taken care of and kind of gets followed through. So I want to make sure that the staff I'm hiring helps understand what my vision is for my clients, and that it's not just little projects. These are the most important projects for those people. You know, these little projects are the biggest projects that these people have done before. And not everybody has used an architect before. So we want it to be a positive experience. So just learning how to train and keep people and find other people that want to kind of help us do what we do is what we're trying to do now. And again, I've learned how to delegate quite a bit since I started. And, you know, that's a hard thing to do. But, you know, we're learning. But that's basically my business in a nutshell. I'm just looking down through my notes to make sure I didn't miss anything. But again, we're really excited to be here. I really look forward to hearing your questions and what you have. But thank you for having me. Again, I'm Samantha Falcone from SDF Architecture.
Okay, Samantha, we'll start off with a compliment. Somebody that saw the bath you redesigned said it was gorgeous.
Thank you.
And you have a couple of customer reviews, one from Rita Guthrie, who you evidently did work for, and you redesigned her master bedroom. And then you spoke a lot about Univest, and Pete gave you some compliments there. Says not only does Univest love your work, but so do the customers. And then now we start to get into some questions. The first one, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, Tony asked about the age group for the girls' camp. I think you said 14 to 18.
Yep, essentially it's for, I think, middle school and high school students. So yes, 14 to 18.
Okay, and then Katrina asked, do you partner with a specific contractor for the work behind the designs, or do you work with multiple contractors?
So that's a great question. So that's one of the questions we get asked almost all the time when someone calls us to help them design something. They're like, "Can you hook us up with a contractor?" Because contractors are a dime a dozen. There's a million of them, and you don't know who's good, who does the job. Most clients come to me and say, "I've called 5 contractors and nobody calls me back." And that's like one of my biggest pet peeves is having someone be responsive. So we do have a team of contractors we work with. We don't just have one, we have a team because you never know who's got time in their schedule. They're also getting their own work. So we have a team of trusted contractors we go to first, and we have quite a network. We have contractors who are up in the East Stroudsburg area. We do work basically within a 2-hour radius of the Lehigh Valley. So I know contractors from my commercial work. I know contractors from my residential clients that we have our kind of go-to contractors that we work with. And then if they're busy, we have a list of other ones. And I usually, every project's different. Every couple we work with or business we work with has different personalities. So you want to make sure you're finding a contractor that you know is going to mesh well with the owners. So finding that tailor fits kind of part of what makes the most sense. And there are contractors at different budget levels. There's the top of the line fabulous contractor that is going to charge them like top notch construction costs and do a fabulous job, but not everybody has that budget. So we have some younger contractors we work with as well. We're also working on developing a list of diversity type contractors to work with because we want to make sure we're spreading the wealth and not just dealing with one type of contractor. So we're trying to expand our network. We're always looking for new contractors. So if anybody has worked with a contractor, send me their information. I love to talk to them. I just met with a construction manager yesterday from Sage Construction. They do wonderful work for commercial clients. So we're trying to find other contractors to kind of spread our network out and make sure we have people we can connect with, homeowners and business owners, so that the job gets done right.
Okay. Uh, the next question actually is a statement, but I would remiss if I didn't recognize all the women on the call. This is Women History Month, and just a few days ago was International Women's Day. So
and actually this week is Women in Construction Week. So it's a big week. I'm glad to be presenting this week during that. I meant to mention it during during my presentation, but yeah, it is Women in Construction Week. So there's all kinds of things going on all over the place. Habitat for Humanity, I think, has a Women Build Week this week. Unfortunately, I'm not able to participate, but they do those kinds of things during this week every single year. And it's amazing the small percentage of women that are involved in the construction industry and how much opportunity there is for women. I mean, I remember the first time I ran into a female electrician on a job site and I stopped and had a conversation with her. I'm like, oh my gosh, an electrician, that's a woman. It was so exciting. And I wanted to make sure that she was being supported. And I asked her a bunch of questions and it was really a great experience. But sadly, it's not very often that I run into that. But every day there's more and more that we see on the construction site. So.
And that's great. And as I said, the other day was International Women's Day, and I don't know about the next two. I'm facilitating week 1 and week 2 in March, and we've had 2 women entrepreneur. The other one, Esther, must want to build a she shed for her and Benny for her business. So here's a question: since the pandemic, and this is from George, are you seeing any new trends in office space design?
So it's been interesting. So my husband works for Air Products, so I've been kind of following along with their new construction of their building down there in the Trexlertown area, and finding out, like, how are they just kind of keeping it the same way? They have open office concept kind of through that entire building, and they seem to be continuing along that path. We have seen a lot. I mean, I know the gentleman from Venture X has been on here and through some of the networking groups. So there are people that are trying to find ways to get out of their homes and into real live office space. But there are also people that are trying to find ways to work in their home office spaces. So we are finding homeowners that are interested in changing up their floor plans, going from open concept to having some spaces in their house that are actually closed off from the rest of the world. So you're not hearing the dog barking and the kids doing whatever they're doing, not doing their classwork. So we do find that we're trying to find ways to create those office spaces that can be custom fit into existing spaces within existing homes. There are a lot of homeowners that are looking to kind of change up the way their house works because they've been spending a lot of time there and thinking a lot about it. So when you have close quarters and you have lots of people living in the house, it works. But the other thing we're finding is, some people come to us and want to do an addition. And then we go and look at their house. I'm like, oh my gosh, you have all this space. Like, why not just rearrange how you do this? So it's not my job to just always do what the client asks for. It's my job to ask the questions to make sure that we're solving the problem that they're trying to solve. By adding more space, is that really the right answer? Or is rearranging the space you already have to make it work better is a better way to go? There's so many people that have these 4 or 5 bedroom homes that they're only using 2 of, and their kids are moving out of the house in a year. So why put an addition on? So we find ways to work with clients, maybe save them money by doing things in a different way than they were thinking. So that's what we tend to do. But from an office standpoint, we haven't done a lot of office renovations over the pandemic. What we've been getting is a lot of residential projects, and people looking to improve their house or build that garage that they haven't put on, or add that second story, or add that addition. There's a lot of that kind of work going on right now.
Well, one of the things that I'm hearing about businesses is they've come to the realization during this pandemic that more people can work at home. So you may see some work somewhere down the road to re-engineer the office space. Mike asked me to remind everybody the link on the 1 Million Cups page that links to killer presentations. For anybody that's an entrepreneur, this is a good resource. So all you do is you go to the main page, and the good thing about it is, as an entrepreneur, you're going to have to give presentations like Samantha did today, and you're going to have to. The most difficult thing I have found is narrowing it down to a smaller time frame. So I think that's a good suggestion. Mike, does that address what you were asking or suggesting?
Let me had to get you off mute to do that. You mentioned a landing page. I'm on the page now, and I'm looking for those links that you showed earlier. I don't see them. So maybe I'm not logged in or need to register first.
Well,
You're looking for the video?
Is that what it was, maybe?
There were videos that I got sent a link to watch that helped kind of think about how to, because this is a different kind of presentation with the question and answer things. And it was very helpful to learn about how to do impactful presentations. And it was very well done. And again, I don't know if that's open to everybody. I assume that they're somewhere on the 1 Million Cups website, but they got sent to me when I signed up as a presenter.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. I have a start. I'll call Samantha.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
If you ever have any questions, be sure to reach out to any of us on the organizing committee. We'll be glad to help you. So that was Mike's. Rita, can you tell us about some of the small business projects you've done within a larger building? Is the term fit out the right one here?
Yes, that's kind of what's considered. So for instance, that the salon I had shown you was in a strip mall in the Trexlertown area. And it basically was like a long skinny space that had been set up in one way. We looked at the area, we found out what kinds of spaces the client needed. There was a handicap accessible bathroom in it already. So we arranged it to have an office space and a room for personal services, and then a waiting area, and designed the front desk area and things like that. So yeah, that's considered a tenant fit out. So we've done quite a few of those. We've also done restaurant fit outs, and we've taken like I don't know if anybody's familiar with the Pantry Diner on Sidersville Road over in Allentown. It's not far from where Bolita is, but it was Francesco's for a while. It turned into Maggia's Family Italian, and now I think it's got a third owner now. But we had taken this vanilla diner space and turned it into kind of like an Italian trattoria that had a little bit more of a warm, rustic feel, a little more Tuscan. We had a pizza oven installed, and we had to work through the issues of how to do the exhaust and the fire ratings and all kinds of things like that. So we turned it into, from like a vanilla like kind of diner space, to a really kind of warm and cozy space with like a party area on one side and a pizza eating area on one side, and then some tables for people that want to do dine-in eating there. And again, it's changed owners like 3 times, but I think the space has been renovated to the point where it's very flexible for other restaurant owners, but maybe the location's just the problem. But it's one of those things. We've also done some tenant fit outs down at the Quakertown Trolley Barn public market. If you haven't been there, it's a really exciting space. We worked with, I want to say, 6 of the tenants there to design their custom little spaces. So we worked with Blend Life to do their smoothie shop and design their front counter area and the way that their equipment was laid out. We work with the Yards Pizza Company down there. What else? We worked with the trolley barn owners to design their kind of retail space, and the bakery shop next door and the butcher shop. And we did 2 other spaces that one didn't end up going through, and the other one they ended up backing out of their lease before they ended up doing the project. But we worked with quite a few spaces there. And again, they're tiny little spaces, but it's very detail oriented. You have to make sure every piece of equipment fits and works and is plumbed correctly, and everything connects well. So we have to understand not only the architecture of the space, but the mechanics of the heating and cooling systems, the plumbing, the electricity. We have to understand all of those pieces. And as the architect, we kind of have to understand all of that and help pull it together.
Okay, couple more comments. Yay to all women. Samantha also, as she mentioned, did a presentation for Lunchbox Lady, and let that be a lesson to us all that you need to spread out and do presentations everywhere. Nicole, who is our, she takes care of scheduling, said all presenters in March are women. Yay. I said the yay. She didn't say the yay. Matt asked for you to put your contact information in, and Rita, your buddy there, put your contact information. Chris Biggs, this is, again, as I mentioned to you, this is going to be the last question, so you might want to think about it. How can we help you? Do you have any specific asks? That's kind of the final question before we go into announcements. So remind me, you make sure you ask at the end. Stacy asked or said, Samantha, are there any project types that you don't do? And what are your favorite types of projects, or what types of clients do you enjoy working with most? So that's kind of a threefold. So if you need a reminder, let me know. But I think it's a good question from the standpoint that from entrepreneurs, sometimes you have to tell a potential client no. So what projects don't you do?
So and I kind of learned a little bit about that. Well, it's taken about 5 years to learn what projects I shouldn't do versus what projects I won't do. So during my first year of business, I got asked to do a hookah lounge, which I thought, oh, wow, that's kind of an interesting project. But I am also trying to be an environmentally friendly, sustainable architect as well, and understanding that smoke is not necessarily a great thing for the human body. And my dad has emphysema and COPD from smoking for 35 years. So to me, that was a project that didn't fit my personal mission in terms of what kinds of projects I wanted to do. So I had to say no to that one. You know, it was a contract that I had gotten through a contractor that I was really well connected with, but it just didn't feel right to do a project like that. I've also had some clients come to me with projects that they really didn't want to spend money on my services. They really didn't care about what I did. They just kind of wanted permit drawings. And sometimes we do that. Sometimes we know someone needs help and we help them. But other times, if we know that they're not valuing what we're adding to the process and really don't want to hear anything that we have to say about the project, you know, we learn those are not the clients we necessarily want to work with. We don't tend to do school projects like K through 12 or secondary education projects. Not that I wouldn't do a small project on a campus somewhere or something like that, but there's a million firms in the Valley that do that kind of work. So we try not to compete with those kinds of firms because we just can't. We just don't have the experience and the staff to handle a giant project like that, like airports, things like that. Even hospital work we don't do, but we've done clinics and chiropractic offices and things like that. So we do medical work, but not like at the hospital where you have like a clean room or something like that. That's kind of outside of our comfort zone. So, and I think that was at least 2 of the parts of that question, Dave. Did I miss any part of that?
What are your favorite types of projects, and what type of clients do you like working with the most?
Sure. So my favorite types of projects to work on are restaurants. I am a foodie at heart, and I love to cook myself. I'm Italian, and it's kind of just in my blood. But I really love going to restaurants and looking around. And my husband laughs at me because I go into the bathrooms at every restaurant. And I take pictures of the bathroom sinks and the faucets and all these things. And anytime we go on vacation, I'm taking pictures of every single building. So it's taught him to look at things in a different way, and he loves it, and it's fun. But we both love to go out and eat, and I would love to design any kind of restaurant space. Working at the Trolley Barn was kind of a fun dream, and that Italian restaurant we redesigned was fun. We have, like, through the church work I had done, we have done commercial kitchens, like in church projects, they do commercial kitchens there. So I'm very familiar with doing that kind of design. We actually do some work with Burger King, believe it or not. We do some of their branch renovations and things like that as a connection through my previous firm as well. So we are very good at kitchen designs and things like that. But doing the fun stuff of how the front space where the dining area is and what the customer sees, and designing fun, energetic, vibrant spaces is great. And I love working with business owners that are passionate about what they do. Like Esther, when she gave her presentation, like, I'm ready to design her factory where she's producing this product. So like, I'm so excited about that, and creating a fun space for her customer forward kind of stuff. But anyway, I know that's a long way down the lines. I don't want to scare you, Esther, but I'm here when you're ready. But even like working with homeowners that really care about the design. We're designing a new house for a couple in Macungie right now, and they really want to make sure that their house performs well, looks well, fits into the neighborhood. And it's funny, they're both medical professionals. And he even during the pandemic has kind of designed his own house on SketchUp. He downloaded a program, he's watched a million videos, he designed and like built his kind of own model of a house, and then comes to us and said, all right, now we want to build something like this, but I'm not an architect, so I need you to tell me what is the right way to do this. So those are the kind of clients that we love to work with, that have an idea of what they want to do, they just don't know how to quite put it together, and we're there to help them through the process.
Okay, compliment about being environmentally sensitive. Hopefully everybody's audio is working now. I see a couple comments about that. Hopefully everything's working well. Justin had a question about how are you getting your message out and your story to the public?
So I do some posts on Facebook, and I'm very careful to curate what I post. So like this week, for instance, I posted about Women in Construction Week and connecting people with that. I'm posting photographs of interesting architecture projects, or something that's going on in the Lehigh Valley, or a project that we've done work on, or just some funny cartoons about architecture, things like that. I've had a few ads in Lehigh Valley style, which has been actually really good. From the very first ad we had placed, we got, I think, 2 or 3 calls just from that one ad, and we put it in a couple more months. And now that spring's here, we were just in the March issue with an ad there. But again, it's one of those things where we don't advertise. Like architects, we're kind of like doctors and lawyers. Lawyers advertise all over the place, so do doctors. But for whatever reason, architects don't advertise. I don't quite understand why. But what we do instead is we sponsor things. We when my kids have plays at the high school, we'll put an ad in the play advertisement there. We're connecting with homeowners for the most part, and the homeowners in different areas. We have an ad in a golf course booklet. Like, you can get a booklet at a golf course. We have an ad in one at the Green Valley Country Club up in Bethlehem. So we're trying to find places that work, but most of our advertising doesn't work. We're getting our jobs through word of mouth, through contractor recommendations from engineers and architects, where they have projects that come in that are too small for them to work on, so they send them to us. So we're, the engineers and the contractors in Lehigh Valley know who I am. I've been around for 25 years. They know that I put out a good product, I do a good job. So they trust me with their clients that they can't help. So they send things to me because they trust me. And then I'm trying to make sure my staff understands what we do and how to do it like I do. And that's the hardest part, is training new staff to understand, to take care of all of the different things and to ask all the right questions. And it's my job. There's only so many hours in the day, and that's where I'm struggling right now, is there's only so many hours in the day, and I have lots of work to kind of keep an eye on. And as we grow, there's more and more work to keep an eye on, and just keeping things moving at a quick enough pace is the struggle we're having right now. And we really just need some extra really great help. So if anybody knows architects, designers, drafters, anyone that's worked in the construction industry and the residential construction market, we would love to talk to any of those people. So I'm always looking for people to add to the team that are good and passionate about what they do.
Good. We have about 5 more minutes, and then we have to leave some time for announcements. But just a quick question. How are you meeting with your clients? Are you doing it all digitally? Do you meet with them in person?
So at the beginning of the pandemic, we were just meeting virtually or online or through Zoom. We have done quite a few Zoom meetings. I've done some with different clients in different ways. But in the last probably 6 months or so, I have been going out to sites, mostly meeting outside with masks on. We're all very, very safe. But we've had jobs where we've had to do field surveys where 2 of my staff members have to go out and measure things. So we warn the clients, like, we're going to be in your house, we're going to be measuring, we're going to be doing stuff. And we just wear masks and gloves and take care to be as safe as we can. And we stay 6 feet apart from everybody we're meeting with. And again, if we can have a meeting outside, that's what we'll do. Like, especially when you're talking about an addition to a house, we can talk about the addition from the outside. And then when we need to go in, we just stay 6 feet apart with masks on. And we've been very safe in our office. We have a giant space in Emmaus, and we're spread out in like all corners of the office space, so we can kind of work without our masks on part-time. We have air filters in the office so that we're all kind of trying to make the area as safe as possible for everybody, and everybody's being extra careful about what they do in their off hours. And everybody's been it's kind of been beaten into all of them about, like, don't go to the bar this weekend. Go just get your beer at the beer place and bring it back to your house and drink it there. Like those kinds of things. So we've just been trying to keep everybody safe and responsible, and everybody's on board, and everybody's trying to be as safe as possible.
Here's a potential lead for you. I don't know if he's asking for himself, but or a buddy, but you can reach out to Hector Bonilla. His contact information is in there.
Mhm.
He asked if you've done any home theater rooms.
We have not. We've designed a few, but we haven't built any. So we've done sound system design for like multi-purpose rooms, and we did a senior center with a multi-functioning multi-purpose room with a media player and things like that. We've done media player designs for Univest for like their conference rooms and things like that. But I would say Jeff French is a great person to help do that. So I know he's on this call. Call out to Jeff. Hi, how are you? We've designed a few, but we've not actually implemented any. We were working on a giant house up in the Elk Mountain region, and the project just ended up not happening. But they were designing a movie room. He has one in his existing house that's basically like a theater and a movie theater, and it's all closed off and it's super acoustically great. But we know how to. We just have not yet had that experience, but we would love to. But again, having done AV and media design in church projects for their worship centers and things like that, we get how all the technology works and the right questions to ask, and we can hook up with someone like Jeff that can tell me exactly what equipment to put in those spaces. So that's how we work. So we're an architecture firm, but we work with a whole team of structural engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, plumbing engineers, acoustical designers, kitchen design experts. We make ourselves bigger by connecting ourselves with other reputable firms that do the work that we can't do in-house. So we create a team. We worked on the Archibald Johnston Mansion project up in Bethlehem. We did the feasibility study for how the building can be kind of turned into a public space relatively soon. And we connected ourselves with a grant writer, someone that did historical restoration projects. We had a historical writer that helped us write the story about what the building was and what kinds of things we needed to look at. We worked with a structural engineer and a construction manager to get the pricing together. So we created a team out of people that we trusted to make ourselves win a job that we normally wouldn't have been able to win against firms that have been doing historical renovation work for decades. And here we are, this brand new little firm that, hey, we want to do this project. And we won the project. And that was one of my proudest moments is winning that job over some of the more established firms here in the Lehigh Valley.
Okay, I'm going to wrap it up, but just kind of give you a couple of suggestions that people have put in here. Girish, our score person, wanted to know if you provide project management or construction management services. If you don't, this might be a good value added. With the family history of church builders, have you considered restoration work for old churches and buildings? I think you may have mentioned that you did a little bit of that.
Mhm.
I'm going to wrap it up with that. What can we do for you? And anybody that wants to, or you can tell us what you want. We know that you're looking for people. We kind of know the people that you're looking for. I made a recommendation to Samantha, and it wasn't necessarily a good fit with the architecture work that he did, but she's looking for a wealth of experience. So what can we do for you, Samantha? You've done such a great job of presenting. What can we do for you now?
Yeah. So again, if you have or know someone that is looking to do a project that needs help, that doesn't know how the process will work, or is afraid to talk to an architect, I'm happy to talk to people. We always offer our first meeting as a free service. I know that's not always recommended, but I want to make sure that an architect is a good fit for your project. If you're just renovating a kitchen, I'm going to send you to one of the fabulous kitchen design stores here in the Valley, because they know the cabinets in detail so that they can pick that spice rack out for you exactly the way you want it. What we'll do is create the space to put that kitchen in, and we'll send you to a kitchen place to get that done. So that's kind of like what is a good referral is like, if you're looking to do a structural change or an addition or something that involves more than one room in your house, we're happy to help you out. So any projects that like that, that's great. Or if you have a commercial client or a friend that's looking to start a business and doesn't even know where to look, we've helped clients evaluate spaces where they're like, hey, we think we need X number of square foot to move our business from point A to point B. Is this space going to work for us? What are the challenges that we're going to have here? So we have done consultations where we've gone out and done that. We have done construction management services, mostly for the projects that we've designed. And there are a lot of construction managers out there that do that. That's just what they do. But we always feel like the architect should be involved in the construction process because that's where all the problems happen. That's like when you open up the wall and you see the beam like on HGTV. We want to be involved in that process. So we always include a few construction meetings as part of our design packages so that you don't feel like, hey, if I call her, she's going to charge me another $100 just for this phone call. I don't want you to feel like I'm a lawyer and like every time you call me, it's going to be a problem. I want you to call me so we can help you solve the problem. So it's a little different than kind of the average way an architecture firm works, but we want to make sure that we're involved in the construction process throughout every project because we want to make sure it gets done right.
And also, you didn't mention this, but you're looking for potential staff members as well.
Correct. Yep.
Having heard what Samantha does, you might know somebody that's a good fit. Does that wrap it up? Now, here's the thing. You're going to get a copy of the video. You can go to our links on Facebook. You'll see the chat. So make sure that you reach out to people. That's part of the reason people attend 1 Million Cups.